Hello everyone. Today let's continue with the story of the single mother Diệu Hân. Days went by, and the hospital became Tan's second home. He hardly ever left the ward, always staying close to Hân's bedside. His eyes sank deeper with each sleepless night, dark circles marking his face, his appearance gaunt and tired, yet his gaze never wavered from the girl lying motionless on the hospital bed. He held her hand tightly, sometimes pressing it against his cheek just to feel the faint trace of warmth that lingered. Inside him grew an invisible fear that if he let go, Hân would slip away forever. So no matter how exhausted he was, no matter how much pain his own wounds brought him, he stayed, never allowing himself a single careless moment. The steady beeping of the machines filled the sterile white room like an echo of dread. To others it was just a familiar sound of the hospital, but to Thanh each beep was a countdown to Hân's life. Every time a doctor or nurse walked in, his heart clenched, his eyes following every gesture, every furrowed brow. Even the slightest flicker of concern on a doctor's face was enough to make him panic to the point of breathlessness. During the day, Thanh sat by her bed, gently wiping the sweat from her forehead, adjusting her blanket and pillow to keep her comfortable. At night, when the whole hospital sank into silence, he still sat there quietly. He rested his head on the edge of the bed, his eyes shut tight with fatigue, yet his hand never released hers. At times, drifting into a half-sleep, he would jolt awake, terrified that he might have missed the moment she opened her eyes. He forgot to eat properly, forgot his own injuries. The pain in his shoulder or the tear along his arm became little more than faint reminders, drowned out by his overwhelming worry for Hân. Every night, he whispered softly into her ear, his voice hoarse, trembling, yet full of yearning. "Please wake up. I'm right here. I won't go anywhere. Just open your eyes even once just to look at me." Thanh believed that even in her unconscious state, Hân could still hear him, could still feel his persistence and the love he poured out for her. That fragile belief alone gave him enough strength to endure the long, lonely, and fearful days at the hospital. The days that followed seemed to stretch into months. Each morning when sunlight streamed through the hospital window, he would look at Hân's unmoving face, hoping for a miracle. But the only response was her faint breathing and the steady sound of the monitors. He grew accustomed to the routine of hospital life, waiting for the doctor's rounds at dawn, snatching a few hurried bites of boxed rice at noon, and quietly sitting by her bed through the evening. At night, when the corridors outside lay in silence, he still kept vigil, his eyes bloodshot from strain. The sting of his wounds flared each time he moved, but he almost forgot they even existed. On some nights, sudden rain poured down outside. The sound of raindrops mingled with the beeping of the machines, weighing even heavier on his heart. He wondered if Hân could hear it, if she could sense the rain the way he sensed his own empty loneliness. Family members who came to visit urged him to rest, to conserve his strength for the long days of caring for Hân ahead. But Thanh only shook his head, his gaze resolute. "No, I can't leave. If she opens her eyes, I want to be the first person she sees." And so, day after day, his worry grew heavier. Every small movement from Hân, a faint tremor in her fingers, would make his heart race wildly. But soon silence returned, leaving him with a hollow ache. On the seventh night, as the hallway lights spilled through the window, Thanh leaned back against the bed frame, his hand still clutching Hân's. Exhausted, he closed his eyes, but inside he whispered like a prayer, "Hân, if you can hear me, please don't leave me alone." That Saturday night, as Thanh sat with his head resting beside Hân's bed, the door suddenly swung open. Light from the hallway spilled in, accompanied by hurried footsteps that made him jolt upright. The on-duty doctor entered, followed by two nurses pushing a trolley of equipment, their expressions far more serious than in previous days. Thanh heart clenched. He shot to his feet, stammering, "Doctor, how is Hân? What's happening?" The doctor frowned at the monitor, eyes heavy with concern, before turning to Tan with a grave voice. The patient has just developed complications. We need to intervene immediately. You must prepare yourself, tonight could be critical. At those words, Tana's legs nearly gave out beneath him. He staggered back, face pale, cold sweat pouring down his skin. But almost instantly, he rushed forward, clutching Han's hand tightly, his voice trembling, choked with despair. Han, can you hear me? Please hold on, don't leave me. I can't lose you. The monitor's beeping quickened, no longer steady. Each shrill tone pierced Tana's chest like a blade, making his heart feel as though it would shatter. Nurses rushed to adjust the 4 lines, checked the vitals, and called for reinforcements from the emergency unit. The room filled with a suffocating tension. From the corridor came more hurried footsteps. The door burst open again. Han's father appeared, trembling, his white hair falling over his grief-stricken face. Seeing his daughter lying unconscious, tears streamed down his cheeks as he choked out, "Han, my child, please don't leave your father." In that moment, Tan turned to steady the old man, his own heart numb with sorrow. He wanted to comfort him, but the lump in his throat silenced every word. All that remained were panicked breaths, frantic glances, and the blaring alarms of the machines. Amid the chaos, Tan understood with devastating clarity. This night marked the boundary between life and death. Either Han would wake, or he would lose the most important person in his life. That thought made him squeeze her hand even tighter, as if trying to pour all his faith and love into her. "Please don't sleep anymore. Come back to me," he whispered, tears welling, his voice breaking into raw despair. The monitor shrieked with long, continuous beeps. Red lights flashed across the screen as the heartbeat plummeted into crisis. Tan froze, eyes wide, gripping Han's hand with trembling fingers, his body drenched in cold sweat. "The patient is in critical condition. Prepare for resuscitation," the doctor commanded. The nurses sprang into action. One raised the hospital bed. Another fitted a ventilator. Oxygen hissed from the compressor. Tan was pushed back to clear space for the emergency team, yet he tried to edge closer, his gaze locked on Han. "Please save her. Don't let her go," he cried out. The doctor barked. "Ready the defibrillator." The room flared with light from the paddles. A sharp crack sounded as Han's body jolted upward, only to fall motionless again. Tan nearly collapsed, clutching the bedrail so hard his nails dug deep into the cold paint. Once, twice, the shocks came one after another, interlaced with the urgent shouts of the medical team. Each time her body convulsed, Tana's heart constricted as if it would explode. In the hallway, Han's father crumpled into a chair, shoulders trembling, face streaked with tears as he muttered desperate prayers to the heavens. The room rang only with alarms, pounding footsteps, and unbearable tension. Tan stood frozen, eyes bloodshot, chest heaving violently, as though he himself were fighting the same battle between life and death. In that suspended moment, time seemed to stop. Everything narrowed to a single question. Would Han survive the night? The defibrillator discharged a third time. Her body lifted, then fell heavily. Tana's breath caught, vision blurred with tears, heart racing wildly. He dared not even blink, terrified that if he looked away for a second, she would be gone forever. On the screen, the flat line remained, stretching on with its hollow tone. The world seemed to freeze. Tan screamed in despair. "Han, can you hear me? You must live, don't leave me." The doctor gritted his teeth, raising his voice. Again. Increased the voltage. A final flash lit the room. The shock surged through her body, jerking her violently before she slumped back. Tan held his breath. Everyone waited, clinging to a fragile hope. Then a short beep. The lifeless line flickered into faint, uneven spikes. Fragile but unmistakably a heartbeat. "We have a pulse," the nurse exclaimed, voice trembling. The heart rate climbed slowly at first, then steadier, filling the room with rhythmic beeps. no longer hollow but alive. Tana's knees gave way. Tears streamed down as he collapsed by her side, clutching her hand with trembling fingers. "Thank God. Han, you came back." Out in the corridor, her father sobbed openly, frail hands clasped together in a gesture of gratitude. The doctor exhaled in relief, signaling the team to stabilize the equipment. The tension in the air eased at last, leaving only the precious sound of steady beeping. Holding her hand tightly against his chest, Tan whispered through tears, "Don't worry. I won't leave you. Not until you truly wake up." After her heartbeat gradually stabilized, the hospital room once again sank into silence. Tan remained by her side, his trembling hand gently caressing Han's pale face, his eyes red and swollen from having just endured a nightmare. He dared not let go, dared not close his eyes, only quietly watching every fragile breath she took. That night, Tan didn't move an inch. Every steady beep of the monitor was another moment his heart clenched, only to break into fragile relief again. He sat there, whispering as if speaking to someone who could hear him in the silence. "Can you hear me, Han? You fought so hard, you're so strong. Just a little more. Please open your eyes and look at me." At dawn, as the first light slipped through the window, Tan suddenly felt a change. The hand he was holding twitched, so faintly he thought it was an illusion. But when he looked closely, Han's fingers really did curl slightly, like an unconscious reflex. His heart pounded. He froze for a moment, then quickly leaned down, his voice trembling with hope. "Han, you can hear me, can't you? If you can, squeeze my hand again." And miraculously, those weak fingers stirred once more, this time more clearly. Tan burst into tears, drops streaming down his cheeks. He clasped her hand tightly, kissed her cold knuckles, murmuring over and over, "Thank you. Thank you for coming back." Moments later, her eyelids fluttered. A dim light seeped through her lashes, then slowly opened. Though her gaze was still hazy, life shone within it. Tan choked with emotion, nearly unable to breathe, whispering at her ear, "It's me. It's me, Han, you're safe now, it's all over." Her lashes trembled as she fought to break free from the lingering haze. Tan held his breath, body tense, eyes alight with overwhelming joy. "It's me. Han, it's me," he repeated, his voice trembling, pressing her hand against his cheek. Her blurred eyes couldn't yet recognize him, but for an instant, a spark of awareness flickered. Her lips moved, soundless, but Tan could read the shape, as if she were trying to call his name. Tears spilled down his face, falling onto her hand. "Yes, it's me, don't be afraid, it's all behind us now." Yet the brief joy faded too quickly. Her eyes stayed open for only a moment before slowly closing again, her breathing heavy and weak. Tan panicked, trying to rouse her, but the doctor gently placed a hand on his shoulder, shaking his head to reassure him. "It's all right. This is a good sign. She's in recovery. She just needs more time to regain her strength." Tan sank into the chair, overcome by both relief and sorrow. He knew she wasn't fully awake yet, but that fleeting moment was enough to give him hope, proof that she was truly fighting her way back. That night, he remained by her side, holding her hand, refusing to close his eyes. Each time he recalled that brief moment when Han opened hers, his heart ignited with warmth, enough to keep him strong through the long days of waiting. "I'll be here every day, every hour, until you wake up completely," Tan whispered, his voice steady like a vow. In the days that followed, Tan remained steadfast at the hospital, never leaving her side. He lived in a familiar rhythm, waiting each morning for the doctor's rounds, spending the day by Han's bedside wiping away her sweat, and in the evenings softly telling her little stories, about Tom at home, about the sunlight outside the window, or simply whispering, "I'm still here." And then one morning, as pale sunlight filtered through the window, Tan suddenly felt the hand in his move slightly. He looked up in shock, and this time Han's eyes slowly opened, no longer hazy as before. Her gaze, though weak, held a trace of clarity as it fell directly upon his face. Tan. Han's voice was hoarse, frail as a whisper in the wind. Tana's heart stopped. He leaned close, eyes brimming with tears he could no longer hold back. It's me. It's me, Han, you're awake. Oh my God, you're really awake. Han tried to move her lips, a faint smile flickering across her pale face. She forced out a fragile whisper. You must have suffered because of me. Tears streamed down Tana's face. He shook his head fiercely, clutching her fragile hand, his voice breaking. Don't say that. All I ever wanted was for you to come back. I could sit here forever. It's enough for me just to see you awake again. She gazed at him, her eyes glistening, then closed them halfway in exhaustion. Tan quickly soothed her. Rest now, don't push yourself. I'm here. I'll always be here. The doctor entered then. His expression lightened at the patient's response. He nodded to Tan. She has passed the critical stage. Now all she needs is rest and time to recover. At that moment, the burden of the past days lifted from Tana's chest. Sitting beside her bed, eyes never leaving her, he felt his heart overflow with a profound and simple happiness. The woman he loved had returned from the edge of death. In the days that followed, the room no longer carried the same heavy gloom. Han awoke more often. Though her body remained weak and her voice faint, her gaze grew clearer, no longer clouded or lifeless. Tan was always there, feeding her spoonfuls of porridge and sips of water, carefully helping her sit up, guiding her through slow breaths. Every small sign of her recovery filled him with immeasurable joy, whether it was the tiniest movement or a short word. One afternoon, as golden sunlight washed through the window, Han tilted her head toward Tan. Her face was pale, but a soft smile touched her lips. You've been here all these days, haven't you? Tan paused, then nodded, his voice low and warm. Yes. I didn't dare leave. I was afraid I'd open my eyes and you wouldn't be here anymore. At those words, Han's eyes welled with tears. Her lips trembled as she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. You've endured too much because of me. If that night had. But Tan clasped her hand tightly, cutting her off with trembling resolve. Don't say it. What matters is that you're here now. That's all I need. At that moment, Han's tears spilled over. Not of pain but of release. She leaned her head against his shoulder, listening to the strong beat of his heart, a steady reminder that she was alive, that she was still loved. In the nights that followed, when the hospital halls were silent, Tan sat by her bed telling her small stories. Han listened quietly, smiling faintly. They needed no grand vows or declarations. His quiet presence alone was proof of his deep love. And so, day by day, Han grew stronger while Tan, with his unwavering devotion, remained her steadfast support. It was as if he had made a vow. No matter how fierce the storms outside, he would never let go of her hand. The day the doctor announced that Han could be discharged, it was as if a great weight had been lifted from everyone's shoulders. Hearing the news, Tana's eyes lit up, joy and relief blending together, and he couldn't suppress his smile. After so many days of worry, at last, he could take Han out of this haunted hospital room. That morning, Tan prepared everything carefully. He neatly packed the bags, checked the discharge papers, then turned to help Han into a wheelchair. She was still weak, her slender figure draped in the oversized patient gown, but the smile on her lips shone brighter than ever. As the wheelchair rolled down the long hallway, Han lifted her gaze to the sky through the glass windows. After being confined within four walls for so long, the sunlight outside seemed dazzlingly beautiful. She drew a deep breath, savoring the air, and whispered, "Tan, I really lived to see this day." Tan stopped, bending down to look at her. His eyes sparkled, though his voice trembled. "It's not just that you're alive. From today on we start anew. I never want to lose you again." Han froze, her eyes brimming with tears. She didn't reply, only held his hand tightly. That simple grasp saying everything words could not. Back home, everything felt both familiar and strangely new. Han's father welled up with tears at the sight of his daughter safe again. He could only nod silently to Tan, his eyes full of deep gratitude. As for little Tom, the moment he saw his mother, he burst into tears and ran into her arms, clinging tightly. Han too could not hold back her tears. Tan stood beside them, quietly watching the reunion, his heart overflowing with a warmth he had never known before. In the days that followed, Tan spent most of his time caring for Han. He prepared every meal, watched over her sleep, helped her walk again, guiding her through each slow but steady step. They didn't need grand promises, for everything had already been proven through sacrifice, patience, and a love that had crossed the boundary of life and death. That first night Han slept again in her own home. She turned her head and saw Tan still sitting at her bedside, just as he had in the hospital. She smiled, whispering like an affirmation, "Thank you for never letting go." Tan clasped her hand, his gaze unwavering. "I told you, as long as you're here, I'll always be by your side." Outside, the night descended peacefully. In that small home, after so many storms, their love had entered a new chapter. Deeper, stronger, like a miracle born of pain and hope. After returning home, life for Han and Tan gradually settled into calm. Each morning, as sunlight streamed through the window, Han sat on the wooden chair outside the porch, her legs still weak but her eyes bright as she watched Tom running around the yard. At those moments, Tan would bring her a warm glass of milk, set it before her, and quietly sit beside her. "You haven't been sleeping enough again," Han chided softly, worry in her eyes as she noticed the dark circles under his. Tan laughed, holding her hand. "I'm used to it. As long as I see you stronger every day, it doesn't matter if I lose sleep." Peaceful days passed with small but meaningful routines. Tan helped her walk around the yard, steadying her step by step. When she grew tired, he sat beside her, recalling memories they had shared. At times, Han broke down in tears of emotion, and Tan would gently wipe them away, whispering, "Don't cry anymore. We've been given a new beginning." Tom was always chirping beside his mother, sometimes handing her scribbled drawings, sometimes clinging to Tana's leg with innocent eyes. "Uncle Tan, please don't ever leave my mom." The words pierced Tana's heart, but he smiled, crouching to pat the boy's head. "I promise. I'll always be here for your mom. And for you too." In the evenings, the family gathered around a simple meal. Han's father often sat in silence, his warm gaze resting on his daughter and Tan. He said little, but in his eyes lay trust and profound gratitude. On some nights, after everyone had gone to bed, Tan remained on the porch, quietly watching the moon. Han would join him, draping a shawl over her shoulders, sitting close. They didn't need many words. Just holding hands was enough to feel the peace after so many storms. For them, such simple moments were more precious than anything grand. Since the day she returned, their once quiet home was filled with laughter again. Life was still not without hardship, but Han knew that with Tan by her side, she had found her firmest support. And Tan, after everything, understood more than ever. Love is not about promises alone, but about walking together through every breath, every step, through both suffering and joy.
Hello mọi người, rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video của mình. Hiện tại kênh của mình đang kể về những câu chuyện của những người mẹ đơn thân sinh sống ở Việt Nam. Và những video của mình được phát hành vào lúc 7 giờ tối tại khung giờ Việt Nam. Mọi người nhớ chú ý đón xem nha. Nếu cảm thấy những video của mình hay và hấp dẫn thì nhờ mọi người nhớ cho mình một like, share và nhớ bật chuông thông báo để nhận thông báo khi mình đăng video mới nhất, để không bỏ lỡ video nào. Đặc biệt là mọi người nhớ cho mình một nhận xét ở dưới phần bình luận để những video sau mình cải thiện hay và hấp dẫn hơn, giúp mọi người xem vui hơn. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem video của mình. Nếu mọi người yêu thích thì hãy chia sẻ kênh của mình cho bạn bè để mọi người đều được xem những video của mình. Một lần nữa cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video của mình nha. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người.